What's up? It's your boy Carcino here, and let's talk about it. Let's talk about the positive test of Brock Lesnar. We can do that. Let's talk about that real fast. Get some lights. Can dim it a little bit. There we go. That way you can see me more clear. Now, Brock Lesnar tested positive for some type of performance enhancing drug. What a surprise! I have told you in previous videos leading up to this fight that Brock Lesnar was arrested before for possession of performance enhancing HGH human growth pills. You know, the case was thrown out of court because he just had possession of them. But why did he need them? Why did he need them? Is he really a freak of nature? Or just a freak on performance enhancing drugs? So these inhuman feats that you see seem more than normal and human. His body looks unnatural. And in the past, he has had an addiction to these different performance enhancing drugs. But this is the UFC's fault. Because they're so caught up in names, so caught up in selling you names, they're not worried about their fighters and developing fighters. Think about it. Most of their fighters didn't really come from their farm system. They either bought the talent from someplace else and then brought them here into the UFC. Some other farm system developed them and they noticed that this guy's doing something, let's bring him aboard. Other than that, their farm system didn't do anything. And this is why the UFC decided to sell. And why Zuffa and everybody else wanted to get out of the business and sell the business to somebody else and let it be their problem. And they'll just take a percentage. This is why. It was ruled that WADA was going to be doing testing. Okay? Once WADA said that they were going to be doing testing of the athletes for performance enhancing drugs, all the so-called guys, remember in the UFC, they used to have 6-packs. Everybody's ripped with 12 packs coming in the ring. All jacked up, muscular guys. Raw! All that stuff started to simmer down. You start to see a lot less in-shape guys come into the ring. Same thing with WWE, right? They ran into the same problem. They start having a lot of complaints and a lot of different homicides and deaths due to enlarged hearts, heart attacks, wrestlers dying left and right. They had to implement a drug program into wrestling. Staged wrestling had to be injected in that program. So now something that is staged, they had to change their whole protocol, and you start seeing flabby wrestlers come back into the ring. The flabby wrestler was back. The wrestler who used to be huge, big muscles, now they're like 60 pounds difference with muscle. It's like, man, he's gotten skinny with muscle. What happened to him? This guy used to have a 6-pack. What happened to him? What happened to Randy Orton? He was stacked with muscles. Now he's like just ordinary guy. Once you start seeing stuff like that happen, and you start seeing guys who's getting off the stuff, then you start seeing a change because the federal government was getting involved. And that's why the UFC got scared. Because what happened in their situation is the UFC kept covering it up. They kept having these domestic incidents. And when the guy beat up the porn star and almost killed her and beat this other guy half to death. That was major attention from the federal government with the other domestic abuse cases the UFC was facing and MMA period. So UFC be, hey, that wasn't with us. That didn't happen with us. We got to go mayhem this guy and all his abuse cases. And they started to investigate. And once it made it to like real-time sports and all these things, bad lighting on the company. So you got to get out now and cut and run. So all of these things had an effect because the government's going to come in and regulate. And now with USADA being in there, you're going to be looking at a lot of people not passing drug tests. You're going to see a lot of fighters having to follow protocol. And there's too much money being wasted in developing talent and marketing for them to take another toll to go down. It's like, look, we got it back up here. Sell. Let's sell right now. Get this company out of here. And the other company that bought it with the idea of they can finally get UFC in New York. You know, no more just Jersey or around the coast. We can get it in New York City. Because of the mob, they couldn't get it in New York City ever. As long as the Zufas was owning it. It was all based on mob casino business. As long as the Zufas, you know, they own that casinos and they own the UFC, they were not going to let UFC come in New York. It just wasn't going to happen. The families were not going to allow it to happen. But now it's under new ownership. It may be allowed to come in now because it has no ties really to the casino, but they do get a percentage. So who knows? Pretty soon after they do this phase out in a couple of months and they're out, maybe this new group can bring UFC bouts to New York City for those who are very interested in seeing UFC fights. And swing it back to Brock. This is a guy who was on a one-time fight deal. Now he's property of WWE again. So he's not under contract with UFC. Now, if they want to go back to UFC and make something of themselves or want to do real fights again, now he's going to go back and possibly face a suspension. Because people are going to be like, well, you got to suspend Brock. You suspended such and such. You got to suspend Brock now. So it's kind of like he might just have to stay with WWE after basically trashing WWE and saying how real fighting is the best thing. So Vince going to be all right. Okay. I'm going to show you real fighting. So, I mean, I don't understand how Brock has fans. I really don't. As an MMA fighter, he's really done nothing in an MMA ring whatsoever. Now Mark Hunt's like, look, your guy tested dirty. I want half of what Brock got paid. Y'all paid him $3 million for one night. Pay me half of what he made, and we all good. If not, then hey, I have a problem with what just happened. Something needs to happen for me at least. Because now the fight's been ruled a no contest. You see, once there is a betting line on something, it's like having an injury report for the NFL. Gambling runs everything. You don't understand why you think there's an injury report for the football. We got to know if he's 100% to go if we're going to place bets. Gambling runs everything. Why do you think the NBA is upset Kevin Durant went to Golden State, which was his choice? That's not what they wanted him to do. Because they can't have an accurate betting spread. Don't you see? They are against collective bargaining agreements. This got to be changed because it changes the outcome of the control that they have over the game. Because they're used to controlling people with fouls. If this person got 2 fouls in the first quarter, guess what he got to do? Sit down. And they can control the game. One player out could throw a whole monkey wrench in the whole system. But when you have a team that's 10 deep, they lose one guy, they still have another guy come in and do just the same job. So it's harder for you to control. That's how the Detroit Pistons won, baby. Bad boys. The only team to fight the league and win. The only. So, all I'm saying is, be observant, pay attention to the signs, and now you see when everything falls apart, everything starts to come up. The cream rises to the top. Everything is being exposed now. So people are getting to see it for the first time and go, wow, this is what it's like. He was right. But hey, Dana White and UFC, you guys have done y'all job. Y'all made a lot of money. Not y'all concerned no more. Sit back, get your percentage. You already got a good chunk of buyout money. You a multi-millionaire again, 100 times over. Spend the rest of your life spending. Because right now, Conor McGregor and Ronda Rousey is the only thing you have. While you have real fighters, though. You have real fighters. Robbie Lawyer, all these guys who developed somewhere else. They're real fighters in the UFC. People who have dedicated themselves to mixed martial arts or jiu-jitsu or whatever craft that they were taught under, who don't get the promotion they deserve because the UFC is about names. And they feel like, well, you got to have some type of personality. And they're turning it to WWE and trying to mix those two together, and they're failing because they can't have a guy who's talented enough with a name that they built into something that could win more than 3 damn fights that's meaningful. Unless the guy's just a cab driver coming in there. Thanks, buddy. You want to go to 5th in Maine after this fight? Just go in there, man, and pretend to just throw a kick and a punch. But anyway, that's enough. It's your boy Carcino. I'm out. Subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, you're stupid. So I'm out.